Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second episode of the True North podcast. I'm your host, Benedict Rhodes. This week, nominations for the Canadian Olympic team for Beijing 2022 wrapped up, ending with the men's hockey team. With no NHL players at this year's tournament, General Manager Shane Doan and Head Coach Claude Julien have picked a 25-man roster full of former NHL players, other seasoned veterans, and exciting young prospects. This episode of the podcast is all about this roster drop and previewing the men's hockey tournament in Beijing. Joining me is Luke Garrison of Full Press Hockey to discuss all that and more with the tournament rapidly approaching. I hope you enjoy. Very pleased now to be joined by Luke Garrison. Luke, how are you?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good.
As I kind of said off the top, this episode is all about the men's hockey roster announcement. From a few days ago, Canadian Olympic Committee and Hockey Canada named 25-man roster for Beijing 22. No NHL players, mostly coming from Europe and the AHL, OHL, and a few university teams. We'll get to the World Juniors guys in a second, but before we do, who are some of the Canadians you're keeping an eye on in this tournament?
Yeah. So, I mean, aside from World Juniors guys, I assume you mean like McTavish and Power.
Yeah.
I'm definitely very interested, as a Leafs fan, to watch Joshua Sang. Recently he had an injury. I believe it was a concussion, if I remember correctly. But before that, and all season long, he's just been like ripping it up with the Marlies, scoring some highlight reel goals. Recently I know other NHL teams have come calling. And the Leafs have kind of let him entertain those offers, but obviously it would be a huge fail if the Leafs let him sign somewhere else. So, and why I bring all this up is because I think, if he has a really, really good Olympics, like he's just going to push that ante even harder than he's already been pushing it. And the Leafs are just going to have to sign him, right? So, and it'll just be fun to just watch him on the international stage. Obviously he's been through it. And I just like the idea of him, kind of having a platform like the Olympics to kind of maybe get some retribution because nothing puts you back in people's good books like a big goal for the home country. So guess we'll see what he can manufacture there. And the other player actually I was really interested in was Devin Levi. And a lot of people are familiar with him because of his 2021 World Juniors run. They got silver, but obviously he had the best save percentage in history, beat Carey Price's record. And this guy just wins like MVPs and top goalies in every season, every league, like everywhere he goes, right? Like he's a seventh round pick, but he's very high profile. So I don't really know how he slipped so late in the draft. A lot of teams are definitely kicking themselves. So it'll be very interesting, because I know like the other goalies are like Edward Pasquale, and I can't even remember the other guy. No offense to him, but they're just kind of like they're not Devin Levi's not really a brand name necessarily, but he definitely comes with a lot more background history than and success on the international stage than the other two. So I assume he'll be the starter most games, unless someone else gets really hot. But yeah, it'll definitely be interesting to kind of see him too, see how he does.
You mentioned Levi, and you also mentioned Owen Power and Mason McTavish off the top as well. With no NHL guys going, how exciting is it to see some of these guys who had to cancel the World Juniors have a chance to play for Canada?
It's going to be very exciting. And, this roster is kind of a treat because it's a mixture of has-beens, bargain bins, and young guns, let's say. You know what I mean? Obviously, McTavish played in the NHL earlier this season. He looked pretty good in his first few games. Obviously, got sent back for development reasons, which will happen despite a hot start. And Power obviously he hasn't been in the NHL yet, but it's probably for the better because really like what playing games for Buffalo accomplished right now for his development, right? So I think this will be awesome because not like how they're underrated, but both are probably pretty pissed that the World Juniors were canceled, obviously, and so it's a chance to get back out there, get on the international stage, represent your country, and it'll just be exciting too, right? Because really they're like the two players on the team who have the highest upside and are the farthest away from reaching it. So could be somewhat of a coming out party for both or one of them. Yeah, I just expect big things, especially from McTavish because he just has that nose for the net. And I think if there's going to be one thing that the Canadian offense might lack, it's like offensive creativity. So he'll be driving some plays. I assume he'll probably be on the top line, at least in the top six. And yeah, it'll be very exciting to see what he can kind of do and how he helps others around him as well.
And are you hugely disappointed that there's no NHL players going? Because I know a lot of people do obviously want best on best hockey, but at the same time, it does give an opportunity for maybe some guys that we haven't seen before or haven't seen in a while, and kind of give them a chance on that stage.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Obviously it's super disappointing, especially when you look at guys like Bergeron or Stamkos, who, this is their last kick at the can, really. They're not going to be around in 4 years, at least not at a level that is required for Olympics with NHL players. But what it does create is more parity, right? Because obviously there's countries that are in the lower tiers in terms of skill and international success, and they're just gonna have more of their players. Like for example, Austria. A lot of their players are probably going to come from the Austrian league. You know what I mean? So really, just maybe one or two Austrian NHLers that would make that team, but which would obviously help a lot. But I mean, you're losing like two or three guys, and every other team is losing like what would be their whole team, like Canada or the U.S. It just creates a window of opportunity, right? Not that I think Canada's going to go to the gold medal game against like Slovenia and crap the bed, but like it'll give a chance for some teams who maybe wouldn't have had hope at even getting a win before, and maybe get a win. So against like a big dog, like maybe like Austria takes down like Finland or something. You never know. So that could be it could be interesting to see what kind of upsets come from the closer levels of skill than would be if NHL players were involved.
And one name we haven't mentioned yet is Eric Staal, right? Like Stanley Cup champion, Olympic champion,
Yeah.
a thousand games in the NHL, 1,000 points in the NHL, and he'll be an important player, of course. And I imagine you probably see him wearing, excuse me, wearing the C as well.
Yeah, no, I agree with all of that. And this is a good opportunity for him too. Obviously I don't think he's good enough for the NHL anymore. He hasn't really been for a couple of years. I mean, it's kind of unfair because his career dropped off from Minnesota when he went to Buffalo, then he went to Montreal, and obviously Buffalo and Montreal aren't really places that are that foster offensive numbers. So that could just be it. But I mean, at the end of the day, I don't really know what Eric Staal wants from his hockey future right now. This is a good start, right? Especially if he has a good Olympics, he'll put himself on the radar of NHL teams. I know through like 4 games with the Iowa Wild since he signed that AHL contract like a week or two ago, he has 2 goals and 5 points. So clearly he can still get it done. And he might not be good enough for the NHL anymore, but he's definitely good enough to play at the Olympics with no NHL players. And who knows, right? I mean, like maybe a team could pick him up for a late run, and he could be because he was pretty valuable points for the Canadians during last year's playoff run. Even though after I think the first couple of rounds, he kind of maybe tired himself out. I don't remember seeing much of him after that against Vegas or Tampa, but yeah, he could definitely get it done. I mean, he put up around like 50 points, like even just like 3 seasons ago, right? I mean, can't really go back 4 years, even three's a stretch. 4 years ago, he had 4 goals or 40 goals, excuse me. That's not the version we're gonna see. But yeah, it's funny. It's crazy too that he's like I think 37 years old. I mean, it'll just make me feel old. But I remember when he was drafted. Like I'll never forget that first year where him and Crosby and Ovechkin all came out and like put up 100 points, and I'm like, oh, the next wave's here. You know what I mean? Like, and now they're all like on the backswings of their careers. So, but yeah, I think Eric Stahl, where he'll be valuable too, is like I said before, like offensive creativity. Like you have him and McTavish and Power on like PP1. You know what I mean? I can see Stahl working the half boards, like making some stuff happen. He's very intelligent, right? He's a great playmaker. So yeah, he'll definitely be a great fit on this team, even if he doesn't really play in the top six all the time. And like you said, he'll probably wear the C. So.
And you mentioned he's kind of angling himself here to try and get an NHL contract, or maybe at least an AHL contract. And do you think that's a real possibility? You mentioned Josh Hosang as well, maybe trying to do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely right. I mean, the one thing these tournaments kind of do that's negative is that it kind of like overrates players. You know what I mean? Like, I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but I remember even in the past, there's been a couple of players who had like a good world championship, and then next thing you know, they have like an NHL contract for the next season, or at least like an invite to camp, and then they go, and it's like, oh yeah, just like we already knew this guy like wasn't gonna really make the team. He just kind of got that chance because of the Olympic spotlight, right? And I have no problem with that. Like go make that money, go show people that you deserve an NHL contract or an AHL contract. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think like Josh Chang's a special case. Eric Stahl, like he might be able to sell himself to get picked up by an NHL or an AHL team. Like, well, I mean, I guess he's already with the Wild, but yeah, trade deadline is still a bit away, but down the stretch, people get injured, especially with COVID. I think a lot of teams are going to need bodies, and if Stahl can have a good Olympics, like, I don't think his chances are nearly as high of getting signed as Josh was saying because Hosang seems like inevitably to get signed. Whereas Staal, it's like, will he? But I don't see why not, right? As long as he comes out and doesn't look like busted and old, like I think he'll be okay. I think somebody will sign him to minimum money, right? And like he'll fill somebody's third or fourth line. Um, like for example, I hate to say it as a Leafs fan, but I can really see Eric Staal fitting well in Boston. Put him on the third line with like Charlie Coyle, or something like that, right? So who knows? It'll be interesting to see what happens there.
And there's no NHL players, obviously, as you keep saying, but the KHL obviously is producing a lot of players for this team. The Russian team won gold last time. Pavel Datsyuk won his Olympic gold finally. Then
Yeah.
then this year again, Russians expect to be probably the favorites, I'd imagine. Who jumps out at you from the other teams in this tournament as well?
Yeah, I think like you said, I think like the is Russia participating, or is it still Olympic athletes of Russia?
Yeah, it's like Russian Olympic Committee.
Say
Yeah,
oh, it's something new. Okay, same thing.
yeah, same difference. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think Russia's always a threat. I don't know off my head who's on that roster, but like with like you can get some people back like a Datsuk, or even like if like Kovalchuk comes to play or something. Russia's just like they definitely have by far the most high end options outside of the NHL. So I think with a no NHL player tournament like this, like they have an edge in that respect. And yeah, like the US too, they're always gonna kind of be in the mix, right? They got Matty Beniers and Jake Sanderson going, who are kind of like their version of McTavish and Power, you know what I mean? Also Matthew Nyes, that Leafs prospect who's looking like he could be a real steal. He's been playing really well lately. What's funny is that I don't think they'll be successful per se, but the one team that really was kind of interesting to me was China. Because they have, first of all, they have Jake Chelios, which people are very upset about. And it's kind of funny. You wouldn't expect Chris Chelios' son would be suiting up for China at the Olympics, but we're in 2022. What haven't we seen at this point, right? Anything's possible. They could sign a kangaroo. I wouldn't be that surprised. Uh, and so it'll be interesting to see what he does. Also, they got players in their roster like Ryan Sproul, Ethan Werrick. These are guys who were picked in I think they're both like second or third round picks like a few years back. So they kind of have some bargain bin players too, right? I think every team does, but yeah, there's like a few names in the Chinese roster where you look at it, you're like, oh yeah, him. I think they have like Brandon Yip too. You know what I mean? Like all these like guys who kind of yo-yoed between the NHL and the AHL for several years before kind of just making the move overseas. And to go back to like a showcase for like NHL teams to look like if they're ever going to make their way back to North America, like what an opportunity, right? I don't know how many Conlon Red Star games NHL scouts are getting in these days, but so this could really, like if either of them looks any bit good against any of the good teams, especially, like why not? Like because a lot of these guys too are like pretty good AHL players and they went over, right? But I guess at the end of the day, like AHL salaries are kind of poop, and like if you're like AHL dreams are kind of vanishing. There's a go overseas, right? You'll make a lot more money. You'll live somewhere cool. Why not, right? Whenever you talk to NHLers who have done it, they always say like, "Oh, I love that I did it." Career worked out. It didn't work out in North America. That sucks, but you get to see something else. But at the same time, right? It's not like these kids woke up every day when they were 6 years old going to practice, being like, "I'm going to play in China." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the NHL, AHL ultimately was their dream. For a lot of them, probably still is the dream, even though they're like getting up into like my age now, like late 20s. And we know in sports that's basically ancient. So, so yeah, I'm very curious about China because it's like a mixture of like NHL bargain bin players and Chinese players who I just don't know, right? Frankly, so it'll be cool to kind of see. Hockey's grown so much in Asia over the last 5 to 10 years. So like, I don't think they'll be competitive, but like, it is cool that they have a team going to the Olympics. They have homegrown talent. They've infused these like has-beens from Canada who are still aren't even necessarily old. They just didn't really ever make it. And so like I'm very curious to see how that all comes together, like the feng shui of that team, like what lines they set up. Maybe they're gonna do all Canadian lines or like an all American line with their imports, or are they gonna like mix it up? Like that's gonna be fun to watch. I'm very excited to see what happens there.
Yeah, that'll definitely be a unique situation. I remember like a couple months ago, we were talking about like should they even be allowed to compete, right? Like if they're going to lose to Canada 30-0 in some games, right? Like if they're NHL players, so it'll be interesting to see how they compete against maybe a lower sort of tier, I guess, of players.
Yeah, that'll be a heck of a game. Like like you have like like China going at it with like Kazakhstan, or I've been like throwing all these random lower tiered country hockey teams out all episode long. I don't even know who, if any of these teams are going to the Olympics, but you know what I
Yeah,
mean.
bring back Nick Antropov.
Yeah. He's working with the Leafs as development coach, so he's around.
Just get him on the ice.
Yeah.
I guess let's talk jerseys, right? Like I told you to pick a couple jerseys from Canada history.
Sure.
People can't see this because it's an audio podcast, but I'll maybe post a screenshot behind you, Vancouver 2010 jersey on the wall, Brampton Battalion jersey as well. Love to see that as well. Maybe what do you think? We'll start off with the current jerseys. What do you think of the new design? Not using the classic Canada logo, using kind of a new leaf.
The day those jerseys came out, I saw some like Shell gas station memes comparing the logos, and like I just can't unsee it. And it's not even like I don't like them because of the Shell gas station memes, but I mean, if anybody's listening who's not in Canada, they probably have no idea what the heck Shell is. But it's basically a shell. That's the logo. It's pretty straightforward. And yeah, I don't know. It's just the logo is so strange. It's like they went to like an interpretive artist to get it done or something. You know what I mean? Like it's cool from like an artistic standpoint, I guess. It's different. It's it's edgy even, but no, not really edgy. It's not the word I'm looking for, but
like modern kind of.
It's out there. Yeah, I guess it's super modern. Yeah. So I don't know. Like there's so many great Canadian jerseys that like I just don't understand why they would have gone in that direction. Like I was kind of hoping they were gonna do like, I mean, I guess to get into it, my favorite jersey of all time, and I'm sure a lot of people will say this in terms of Team Canada jerseys, is the 1972 Summit Series with the Canadian flag coming out of the bottom. That's it looks so sick. And it's like, why couldn't they have done like a rendition of that? You know what I mean? Or even like more recently, like my second favorite jersey is probably like the 2016 Hockey Canada jerseys, you know, with like the Nike logo up here, and then they got like they did in the Hockey Canada. This looks like really official, you know what I mean? Like just like when you envision like what an official Hockey Canada jersey would look like, it's like the 2016 ones like come to mind, in my opinion, anyway. And so I think I'd go Summit Series 1, 2016 to 2010 Vancouver Olympics. I'd probably go 3. I don't even like the red the best, even though I have the red. Like the white jerseys from that were like beautiful. Like those were great jerseys. How about you?
That's the one I have. Number 1 is the white Hockey Canada jersey from 2010.
Nice.
The history associated with it as well. Obviously, the golden goals, like in my opinion, the greatest hockey moment I've ever seen. Certainly.
Oh yeah, never forget.
And also, you mentioned the 72 jerseys. People have been screaming for those remakes for forever, and also 76 as well. The kind of diagonal Canada with the kind of diagonal leaf, like
that's
right. For ages as well.
I remember like one of the Canada Cups in the 80s. They did like kind of like a hybrid of that. They had the Canada like on like the one wing.
Yeah.
I thought that was kind of quirky, but I liked it. I don't know. Anything is better than what we're gonna see this year. I guess that's all I can say.
Everyone loves retros, right? Like the NHL had the whole reverse retro thing, and everyone loves a throwback, right? So I think they probably should have one of this back. I don't hate the new ones, but I do think they could have been maybe a lot better.
Yeah, no, agreed. I mean, Canada jerseys are Canada jerseys. There's like aspects of it I do like, but I just like I said, to me it's just like they use the creativity of a white crayon to make that jersey. You know what I mean? It's like someone like half-assed it on a Friday. Like I don't know. Just like they could have done so much more. So that's like really mildly quip with it. It just seems lazy. And if it wasn't lazy, I'm very sorry if the artist ever happens to listen to this. So I'm not trying to poop on your design, even though I am actively pooping on your design. But
Before I let you go, Luke, I have a few rapid fire questions. There's no hesitation. Just give me the first answer that comes to mind. All right.
Let's do it.
First off, will Canada win a medal, and what color will it be if so?
Yes, I think Canada is definitely going to win a medal. At minimum, bronze. I think if they don't medal, that's a disaster. I think even bronze is kind of a disaster. Like in a tournament like this, even though you don't have like a McDavid, McKinnon, Crosby first line, like Canada's like got to be competitive. You know what I mean? Like I'd say bronze minimum, because like if they lose to if like Russia and US are like ahead of them, that wouldn't necessarily surprise me, even though it'd be super disappointing. But I think at minimum they get a bronze. I think it's way more likely to get a silver or a gold.
Yeah, I agree. I think gold might be a little out of reach if the Russian team shows up and plays the way they can with all their stars. Yeah. But I think silver, bronze definitely sort of the expectation. Mm-hmm. Number 2, who will be the MVP of this men's hockey tournament?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let's see. I think it will be so. It's so tempting to say like McTavish or something, right? But like I don't know. Like hockey is so weird. And I think this tournament's gonna be kind of weird. And I think it's gonna be somebody so random. Like for Canada, like I think it will be like what's his name? Not not Stahl, but the other wily vet on the team.
Jake Demers.
Yes, Jason Demers. That's actually who I was thinking of. Yes, because like I think he could even like I think out of all the players on that roster, like besides the young guns, like I think he's like, given the kind of role that he plays, I think he could definitely step back into an AHL lineup. Like he probably, his likelihood is might be up there with Hosang if he gets a good tournament because he's like a solid shutdown defenseman. And yeah, those solid stay at home types always seem to score big goals at random moments. You know what I mean? So like, let's go with him. That's my contrarian MVP prediction.
Awesome, yeah, and obviously, like I'm kind of assuming that Russia's going to be very good in this tournament. So, their
Yeah.
KHL's leading scorer plays for them, Vadim Shevchayev. Sorry if I
Oh
pronounced
yeah,
that
Ship
wrong.
and Trav.
He
Yeah.
played in the NHL with the Golden Knights, right? So NHL
Yeah,
experience and
he had a cup of dramatic coffee because he had a bad training camp and they wanted to send him down for like literally a week to the AHL. He's like, no, bye. So I think there's a bit of an ego thing there, but he is very good. I mean, he never stopped killing the KHL, so he will be fun to watch. He's very explosive. I like players like that. So
yeah, number three, who will be the surprise star for Canada? You kind of mentioned Jason Demers already, but is anyone else who kind of catches your eye?
yeah. Oh, surprise star. That's a good question. Um, I kind of like David Desharnais. Like, you know, like I don't know, he did score some big goals for the Habs back in the day, and I've always just thought he was like super solid. You know what I mean? Like he's very responsible, and he just does all the little things right, and like he just commits to all. He's like kind of like a student of the game. People like to say, you know what I mean? I feel like he really zones in on those finer details. He's a smaller guy, and obviously he's kind of lost a step in his acceleration over the years. That can kind of hurt. But I mean, when you have a good hockey brain like he does, I think he'll just, I think he'll be a very good facilitator in the middle. I can even imagine him on the power play in like a half wall kind of distribution role. So yeah, that's who I'm gonna go with. I think he'll have a good tournament.
Yeah, I'm gonna go for Devin Levi. I think we mentioned he's
Nice.
obviously if he starts and if he gets that chance to start, I think he have a huge tournament potentially.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Next one, is Eric Staal a Hall of Famer? And if not, would a medal in Beijing change
Oh,
that case?
that's a great question. Man, is he a Hall of Famer? I mean, like you'd have to think so, right? I mean, like, I guess let me put it like this: like, I wouldn't be surprised if he got in, but I also wouldn't be surprised if he didn't get in. You know what I mean? He's kind of like, I'd say he's a Hall of Fame bubble player. In terms of whether or not a medal, especially a gold medal, would sway that, I don't know. Just because there's no NHL players, so even though a gold medal is a gold medal, regardless of what the rules and stipulations are, I don't know if that like necessarily moves the Hall of Fame needle conversation. That's a very good question, though. Honestly, I wish I had like days to marinate that. I probably will still think about that afterward of this interview. But great, yeah, great question.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's also on that kind of bubble. I'd lean probably yes, like 1,000 games, 1,000 points. Like I'd say probably
True.
yes, but
Yeah,
yeah, he said he's probably on that kind of on the fringes of just on the bubble of getting in.
yeah, absolutely.
Finally, last one. What event other than hockey are you most looking forward to at these Olympics?
Oh, that's a very good question. For the Winter Olympics, I love the luge. I also like the skeleton. I mean, it's kind of the same thing. Although I'm sure if you told that to either one of those athletes, they would violently disagree. But yeah, I just think it's like I think it's so fast paced, and I just have so much respect for like the daredevilness mixed with like the poise and the core strength to like even pull off like getting through a track, let alone at like a record time. It's just so crazy, right? Because like it's like somebody will be like beating every checkpoint by like fractions of a second, and they'll get to the end and somehow be like a second behind or like a half second behind. And like I always like that because I always think it's like very very close. And I also love the cross track snowboarding. That's always fun. It's like four guys going at it. Like I don't know. It reminds me of like a tamer version of like Red Bull Crash Days. Like you know what I mean? Like yeah. So I always look forward to those events in particular besides hockey. How about you?
Yeah, I agree. Skeletons kind of when I'm interested in, like you mentioned, like this, the tiny margins. You have to be like absolutely perfect if you want to break records or finish this like milliseconds ahead. So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome too, especially when they tie for gold. Like in Canada, they had like, two bobsledders
Oh
tied
yeah.
in 2018. I think it was like, how do you do that? Like such small margins.
Yeah, I
Like,
know. Dude, honestly, it's like finding a needle in like an extra large haystack. Like, well, I would love to actually see like what the chances were of that. Like, gotta be a fraction, you know?
oh yeah, tiny probably.
Yeah.
Luke, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show. Maybe tell people where they can find you and follow your work online.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And ooh, awesome free media pump. I love that. So on Twitter, I am at Luke Hockey, LukeHockey. I only got a handle that plane because I made Twitter in grade 10 for a school assignment and then didn't touch it for 7 years. So it was an assignment for like remember like civics and careers. It was an assignment for my careers class. It's like make a Twitter. It's like the new wave social media, and like we're all like Facebook and MSN, right? We're like, what the heck is Twitter? And then it's like, oh, it actually turned out to be pretty important. So yeah, you can find me there. From there, you can pretty much find all my other socials. I'm pretty easy to find online generally. And yeah, whenever I have new articles or anything like that I create, I post it there. So yeah, just I guess start by following me on Twitter, and then if you like what you see, you can keep that follow train going, and hashtag follow back, right? That's probably hasn't been a thing for like 7 years, but I will follow you back.
Awesome. Everyone go drop Luke a follow and check it out. And Luke, thanks again for coming on.
Yeah, thanks. No, my pleasure, man. Anytime. Go Canada.
Thank you again to Luke Garrison for being today's guest on the True North podcast. If you like this and want to be the first person to listen to future episodes, as well as receive all new written stories right into your inbox, you can subscribe for free at truenorthsports.substack.com. You can also follow True North on Twitter at truenorth_sports and on Instagram at truenorthsport. My name is Benedict Rhodes, and thank you for listening to this episode, and I'll see you next time.